That's what my clients come to me with. Like, they have passion, they have drive, they have massive mission, but distracted by the shiny object syndrome, the strategies, the tactics. They forget how much easier it is to build a grounded, powerful business by fully being locked in yourself.
Welcome to Don't Step on the Bluebells, the podcast where personal healing and transformation take center stage. I'm your host, Amanda Parker, and I'm a fellow seeker on the journey of personal growth. Join me as I delve into the stories of gifted healers, guides, and everyday people who have experienced remarkable transformations. Listen in as they share their practical wisdom to enrich your everyday life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and never miss a new episode. Welcome to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. I'm Amanda Parker, and today I'm thrilled to share a conversation that might just transform how you think about both healing and building a business. My guest is Joanna Choncer, an intuitive business mentor who specializes in money energetics. She helps high-level female entrepreneurs refine their message, turn on their magnetism, and lead with energy-driven sales to create multi-6 and 7-figure incomes. After her own profound 12-year healing journey that began with theta healing, Joanna discovered how to transform limitation into power and now guides others to do the same. In this episode, you'll discover 3 game-changing insights. First, there comes a point where focusing on what's wrong with you actually creates more blocks rather than clearing them, and how to recognize when you've reached that end healing point. Second, you'll learn why female entrepreneurs can scale faster by tapping into their feminine creative life force instead of relying on masculine hustle tactics that can lead to burnout. And third, Joanna reveals the profound truth that we receive abundantly just because we exist. Our divine frequency doesn't require us to do anything to be worthy. This conversation challenges everything you think you know about worthiness, manifestation, and what it truly takes to build an abundant, aligned business. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'm super, super excited that 1, we got to meet at that event, and 2, that you felt the pull to invite me onto your podcast. Super, super grateful and excited to have a chat.
Well, I have to say your energy just stood out in the room because I could really just feel how grounded and centered you were. And that really stands out. And especially in a world where so many people are building businesses online and in public and trying to build a public persona and a brand. I'm definitely in the business of building a brand, so I get it. But it's very often not really grounded or aligned with the person. Something is always a bit off. So it was really notable that you were so grounded in who you are.
Thank you for reflecting it back to me, because it took me years to get to this point, to be honest with you, and to have that mirror back. I like, as you probably noticed, it took a second to go like, okay, wow. And I agree with you. It takes a lot to build a business, especially as a woman. There is not only so much of the physical requirement to build an actual business, make money, make profit, etc., but to also feel grounded and anchored and so deeply connected to yourself. And remember that you are powerful as Av, and let that lead the way versus us women hustling and grinding and getting disconnected, getting ungrounded, and the whole business journey feeling like, what the F am I doing? Which, in my career, that's what my clients come to me with. Like, they have passion, they have drive, they have massive mission, like yourselves. And I would say kind of the word I'm looking for, I'm not disturbed, but distracted by the shiny object syndrome, the strategies, the tactics. They forget how much easier it is to build a grounded, powerful business by fully being locked in yourself.
That's so beautiful. And I can resonate completely with what you describe is happening with your clients, because that's something I've experienced. I started my business 7 years ago, and the highs and lows have been wild. And I think so much of the journey is just trying to figure out, first of all, what actually feels best and rooted for you, and find, I'd say, like, people you can really trust to guide you on that process, because there's such a huge noise machine out there that wants to tell you the best way to do this or the best way to do that. And it's constant noise. And when you condense that with that you need to be public and visible and online, you're just putting yourself in exposure. It really is like exposure therapy every day. So it's really powerful. First, I'd say that and we're going to get into this because I really want to understand, how you got to where you are, but that you were able to, let's say, overcome that noise machine yourself. Maybe you never fell prey to it. I don't know. And that you actually found a way to support people to be able to do that as well. But I just want people to understand first, because, we are talking about healing and the way that people can really work through personal growth and transformation. And what I find most interesting is that you have these healing tools, and there is that spiritual side of what you do, but that you are so grounded. So maybe you can share just a bit about what is that healing medicine that you're offering through your work?
I think to me, just briefly sharing my journey, with healing. I've been on a massive self-healing journey since 2000. Oh my gosh. 11, I think 13, I can't remember properly now. So to come back to this space now where, like, you've noticed, you're so grounded and you're so powerful and you're so kind of together, and you can feel that on an energetic level. It took me years to come back to who I truly was. That's number one. And I know that sounds so cliche, like, remember who you are. But I had to dig in and out of, trauma, alcohol abuse witnessed in my family, and how that impacted me emotionally, how that disconnected me from remembering who I was. Coming back to recognizing how emotionally distorted my body was, how triggered I constantly was, how my physical health was suffering because of that. So, to me, healing took years of coming back to me, and me deciding that, what, from now on, I am the creator of my own reality. I am also the creator of my own business. I am the creator of, I'm getting goosebumps now, of the clients that I want to be working with. I am literally creator of my entire life. And how that translates into business and working with clients, just to, give your audience and your viewers a bit of understanding, is to turn what you see as limitations, what you experienced as something that is so painful, so raw, and perhaps, you might still be going through this journey right now and you're healing, into something that you will never ever allow you to hold you back. I held back for so long. My healing journey was long, like 12 years of holding on to resentment, holding on to shame, holding on to guilt. And it's, as you were doing a beautiful meditation before we started, I just had a thought dropping into my head. So how beautiful that we're doing this interview in my hometown, where most of the trigger was present, for all those 12 years. And it's kind of like a healing in itself that we're talking about this now. But coming back to what I was sharing before, it was turning your story into a power magnet. I believe that every single one of us has got a powerful story, has got a raw story that might be feeling painful to you right now, but there is gold, there is wisdom, there is absolute freedom that you can share with somebody else in perspective, that you may think, well, it was just, I just experienced, one of my parents' alcohol problems. Well, if you actually start speaking with people, how many people experience the same and cannot make what, who they are, what they experience, how they see the world through those lenses. And, when I started sharing my business, that was my main, let's call it, brand story. I started running my business, not as an intuitive business mentor, but I qualified first as a healer. and later on as a nutritional therapist. So I combined the two because I deeply, deeply believe that my own gut health issues that were the result of growing up in, such an environment were not responding only to the nutritional therapy. I had to get deeper. And in recognizing that story through, years and years of unraveling bits and pieces, I got to see, oh my gosh, like there is so much power in what I've gone through. And it's not to say that I constantly have to speak about the pain that I've gone through, because now I transformed it into power. The reason why now I am so grounded and so, I'm able to hold a level of certainty, of conviction in my work and in who I am is because I had to face the deep layers of shame and guilt and fear and resentment and anger so that I could now be in power regardless of what's happening outside of me, regardless how my business is, because I too have ups and downs. I too have higher days. I have lower days, but I made it absolutely non-negotiable that I will always aim to remain grounded and in remembering who I am, no matter what's happening on the outside.
That is so powerful. First of all, when you were describing that you also have ups and downs, I was like, whew, thank God. Not that I wish the downs on you, of course, but no, but I think it's a real gift to be able to take what are sometimes really painful experiences, to be able to face them and see them. And I also think, because you're telling us here, like really vulnerably, which I really appreciate, part of that origin story of how you got started in this work. But it's also like my experience of you and how you show up online and in your work, that's not your central theme. And I find that also really fascinating because I think for so many people they're using the pain as the story, and I can also understand why that's enticing or why that feels like it might be important. And I guess if you're still in the thick of the pain, it might still be important because it's so present for you still. But we have many different versions of stories of our lives that we can tell. And growing up in an environment that it sounds like was quite difficult, and being able to overcome that helps you to shape who you are. And yet you still find an empowering way to support others that isn't just about, continually reinforcing the pain.
I think if you had met me, let's say 7 years ago, that probably would have been, let's say, my main story. But because I had an opportunity and I had the time to, to tell the story so many times until there was no emotional charge anymore. And that's when I knew that I've healed that part of me. There's a famous saying, and I can't remember who's it by, but it does say, when you look at a memory from the past, and if there's no more emotional trigger within you, you've truly healed.
Wow. I love that.
And that's kind of, where I am with that part of the story. And because of that healing, it unlocked that next level of me being able to turn that pain into power, to turn the shame of growing up in an environment like that into a determination and commitment to myself that I will treat myself, I will treat my body, I will treat my family with utmost respect. I had to go through the pain of resentment to grow compassion and look at every human being and every client who comes into my world, no matter what they're going through, is to look from the lenses of, I may not have gone through what you've gone through, but I have the emotional capacity to hold you in a moment of vulnerability and show you that there's power in it. And I think that's, moving on to the intuitive business mentoring and money energetics coach, it was me using, actually kind of moving through my story of experiencing, emotional neglect, growing up in a country where communism was quite present until, the late, let's call it 80s. So on the subconscious level, I grew up with consciousness of limitations. We can't afford it. We have to work really, really hard to deserve, to be worthy, to feel worthy. So at some point, I had to decide, like, I do not want to associate with, number one, those beliefs, with that level of consciousness. And I will do whatever it takes to never, ever create that for myself again. And that's how, I guess, that energetic power imprint that you can feel comes from that place of, let's call it weakness. I don't see it as weakness, but it wasn't a fun time for me, where I constantly, exactly where I was constantly told, we can't afford it. I have a desire. We can't afford it. I want to go there. We can't afford it. So I said, I'll make it different. I'll work in a way. I'll change my mindset. I'll change my energy. I'll change my consciousness, and I will stay committed to the process until it becomes my norm. And that's what I teach my clients is the longer you allow yourself to use both ends of the stick, the bad and the good, the negative and the positive. And instead of just focusing on, let's heal the bad so we can feel good all the time. That's not the point. It's you being able to be on the swing and have the up and the down and still feeling powerful and still being able to see the gold, the wisdom of the situation and use that towards your own advantage, because that's the goal that we've all been given.
So when you were first starting out on that journey, because I know you said that you were like, there's a path that you took. How did you first start in this energetic space? Did you first start with therapy? Like, what did that look like? Those initial steps that you took from like, okay, I need to change how I'm living my life, or something about this really doesn't feel good.
It's a funny story actually, because it had nothing to do with business and all to do with toxic relationships that I was attracting. I ended up with probably 5, if not 6 relationships where every single time I was cheated on. And, once is, let's call it an accident. Twice you're starting to go, 3 times, 4 times, 5. Okay, there's a pattern. And I know you're familiar with theta healing, and I remember it as yesterday. I was still in my old apartment in London, and I was browsing through a Polish magazine that I had just brought back from being on holiday in Poland. And I think at that time, I didn't even appreciate that I was intuitive in any way. Like, I wasn't drawn to healing. I wasn't drawn to any sort of form like astrology, anything like that. I was just living my life, going from toxic relationship to toxic relationship. And I remember holding this magazine in my hand and coming across an article, Theta Healing. And it's saying, if there are patterns in your life that are reoccurring forever and ever and ever, and you keep attracting the same things over again, there are unconscious and subconscious limiting beliefs that are drawing these people and these circumstances to you. And I just remember in that moment seeing a picture of a teacher who was holding a theta healing class in London. And it was within 3 days, I think it was the weekend. And within a second, I just knew, like, it was a knowing in the body that I just couldn't fight. I was said to myself, I need to be on that training. And I was working at that time, like, I had full graphic of clients. I said, how am I going to do this? And, 12 years ago, it was already then when I learned about the power of creation, using your thoughts and just deciding and commanding the universe to arrange its way for you to make that happen. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know how, but my entire calendar was cleared. I went onto the training and I never looked back, because I then learned, oh my gosh, it was my childhood, how my relationship with men that then contributed to attracting these toxic relationships, not having father figure in my life present either. I just really saw it. And it wasn't, back then that it just all made sense, because it was actually up until recently, probably a year ago, when the final penny dropped, that I realized, oh, wow, okay, we're really the creators of our lives. That's kind of how my healing journey started.
That's Amazing. I love the synchronicity of it. I've had experiences like that where there just happens to be this thing. I was actually telling so I do a lot of shamanic courses and trainings. I've been doing it for maybe like 2.5 years. And the teacher that I work with here in London, I was telling her when I first signed up, I had sort of been looking for shamanic courses, but I didn't really know what I was looking for. And I didn't find anything, like nothing came up. I'm living in North London, nothing was showing up. And then one day I did a search again, and there was a course taking place like in a week or two. And it just happened to be in the same, like postcode where I was living. And I'm like, have I been targeted? I really, so I actually gave a fake address and a fake phone number when I signed up for the training. So I'm like, I don't even know if this is real. What if this is a hoax? Like, I was so convinced there was no way that it was like so convenient and that I could make it. And then of course I went, and it was delightful. And she's like, oh, you flew in from Germany. I did used to live in Germany, so I gave my old address, to be fair. She's like, oh, you flew in from Germany. I'm like, no, I live down the road, actually. So I love that you followed that nudge, that like the training was happening, you knew in that moment. And I did want to ask you before we continue on, if you can just say a bit what theta healing is, because there might be people, who just are not familiar with that at all.
Sure. So theta healing is a form of modality that uses particularly theta brainwave, which is a brainwave that our brain naturally produces just before we go to sleep and as soon as we wake up, which is actually the best time to reprogram our subconscious mind. So this is, a really great time where we can do some healing on ourselves or even clients. But it's an amazing time to use affirmations if you want to go straight to your subconscious and override any limiting beliefs that you currently have. It's an excellent modality, works so fast. And I loved it. As soon as I learned it. And I guess it was just a great way to remember that we have the power to literally change. Like before I even learned about the whole nervous system, brain, neuroplasticity, that we have control over what goes into our brain, even, if we're 40.
And even later.
And even later. Absolutely.
So is that, okay, so you did this theta training course, and I mean, I'm really curious to hear what kind of shifts took place for you when you started to recognize, really your own power as a creator, when you started to actually learn that you had the ability to change the way that you felt and to change your lived experience in the world.
I think the first thing that I started noticing was number one, how different I felt, that I no longer felt as much of a victim. And I'm going to just explain that a little bit because, some people when they hear, oh, I'm a victim. When I say that I stopped feeling as much of a victim as I was before, I recognized that it wasn't so much what was happening to me that made me who I am, but it was how I was interpreting what happened to me. And theta healing allowed me to switch that around. And I went from, I cannot believe they did it again, I cannot believe the bastard did it again, to going and saying and feeling, I understand how this happened, because I went to see, like, okay, I wasn't really loving myself. I wasn't really holding a high enough standard for the type of a man that I was attracting into my life. I wasn't honoring my boundaries. I was kind of a bit of a pushover in my life up until that point. So when that started shifting, I started exuding those boundaries and saying, I'm not available for that anymore. I started saying, okay, these are my non-negotiable things that I'm going to put on my list to who it is that I'm open, willing, and available to attract. And anyone who comes that has any of the red flags, no, thank you very much. To later on in life, noticing that actually it's the people that started treating me completely differently. But why? Is because I started treating myself differently. I started seeing myself in a completely different way. And I know it's so cliche to say, well, all the self-love, but that is truly like, if we cannot, it really starts with us. You can go and explore healing with different healers. You can come into business coaching as well. But my main aim in my business and working with clients is to remind you that you have that power. I never, ever, ever want any of my clients to be dependent on me or codependent on me. My job is to remind you to mirror back the power that I've embodied and remind you that, hey, when you shift how you see yourself, and I often use a term, when you are ready to put yourself on a pedestal, not because you're arrogant, but because you recognize that you are the most important person in your life, nobody else. Everybody else benefits when you actually put yourself on a pedestal, because they get to, explore that energy and bathe in that energy. And instead of seeing you as who the F she thinks she is, they are mirror back that power. And I am, it's I just have to say this, because when you're doing a beautiful meditation at the beginning, and you said, what's the intention? And I heard the message. I think where my mission, like the next part of the mission is that I really want to show women that there is no need for jealousy. There is no need for seeing somebody else as competition. There is no need for vile comments or hate inside the entrepreneurial world. Is when we as women are able to lift each other up, show each other that, hey, you can be powerful too without stealing any of my light or me stealing any of your light. Holy shit, we can change the world. Like, it's so common to say in the spiritual lingo, I'm here to raise the frequency. But do you actually know what that means? You will raise the frequency of the planet when you and another woman is able to, to hold hands and like, let's fucking
do it. Oh, I love that. And it feels like I can really feel the strength in that calling. I'm curious, because I really wonder, this is going to sound naive, but I'll go with it anyway. Like, I don't feel as exposed to the like jealousy or infighting with women. I don't know if it's just the nature of, I don't know if that's even true. I'm like really evaluating as I'm saying it out loud, but I don't feel that as strongly, but I know it's a thing. I've heard about it. I've seen it. I have experienced it in some moments, but is that something that's really so prevalent even today? Like, it's really present that people, your eyes just got wide. So go on.
Is it prevalent? I think it is. And it's funny because as you were asking this question, the response that came to me, and take it or leave it. I think if anyone is not experiencing any kind of jealousy projected onto you or hate projected onto you, because we both know it's not coming from the heart. It's just coming from the ego self, which is fighting to see that power in you, right? So it will project those emotions because it cannot yet see that you can be that too. You can be that person too. And if you aren't experiencing the level of that yet, you're probably not being truthful enough into what you're sharing online. So that's kind of, or you're not probably giving yourself an opportunity to go to a level of boldness or level of audacity or authority to say, this is what I believe in.
Oh God, I feel called out. No, but you're not wrong. That resonates, and it's definitely for me. The jealousy thing I experience sometimes from me to others and from others to me, just not specifically with women. I guess that's it. But sometimes with women, sometimes with men. And I get so triggered.
That can happen. Absolutely.
I know
that
it's
can
a
happen
mirror,
with men.
but I get so triggered when I'm like, just back off, go do your own thing. And then meanwhile, I'm like, look how far this person has come. So
it can happen with men as well. I mean, I've experienced, funny enough, that more with men than women. And I completely understand why. And, I don't take it personally anymore. I used to. And I think if I share this may resonate with a lot of women. When I say jealousy, that was actually one of my biggest shadows for me, because for many, many years, coming from a post-communistic country, I was so used to working hard physically instead of tapping into our God given resource that is, this beautiful feminine energy of creation and tapping into our womb and et cetera, et cetera. I was so used to working hard. So it's actually no wonder that when I first started my business and moved into, the proper, let's say, business coaching, moving on from the nutritional therapy business, I was so on it in terms of following strategies and templates and launches and, 5 steps to this, follow this launch routine, to the point that I actually burnt out because I forgot how to lead my business with my intuition, with my feminine natural life force, for creative force, that if I was to actually allow that to lead me while still being supported with strategies and systems, it would have been a completely different journey. But I'm so grateful for having done it this way, because now I understand why, for example, male coaches or male business coaches get triggered when I say, and when I speak to women and say, there's a much better way to build your business and for it to feel effortless, for it to feel, let's call it aligned, for it to feel divine, where instead of burning out and hustling and chasing clients and posting and being visible and doing all of the things, and you're like, I don't have children myself, but I can only imagine how hard it is for female entrepreneurs who have children, who may not have additional help to help them. Like, you are literally growing another baby. Because I see business as growing a baby. So when they hear or see my messages, they often leave comments like, that's a lot of bullshit, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, hey, these are my case studies. That probably isn't a bullshit, but that's not on me to change your mind. I'm here to show women regardless, and whoever is ready to tap into that way of building a business where you're being led by the force within you that you were giving as a woman, hey, come to this playground, because I prefer having a lot of fun at doing what I love and showing you that you're able to do that too, instead of hustling, burning out, and for your business to feel like the last thing you want to do the minute you wake up.
So it's a perfect segue to getting an understanding of like how you're supporting clients. So what's, someone comes in, what's a typical challenge, or maybe there's a couple that people would come into you with?
The first thing the type of a client that I tend to work with are female entrepreneurs who are already, let's call it a minimum 5 to 8K, whether that's dollars, whether that's pound. But you're already having clients, you're seeing clients. Income is sort of regular. It's not as consistent as you would love it to be. And you got there by working hard. You got there by, okay, podcast, launch, let me do YouTube, let me do Reels, let me do TikTok. And it's like, what else can I do? And you have that desire to reach more people. And at the same time, you're recognizing, holy shit, if I did it this way and it didn't feel great, how can I do it this way? And how I support my clients is we look at the ways that you got your result to where you are right now, but now shifting who you are being rather than what you're doing. Because when you focus on who you are being, and that's, it's again such a general statement, but I look at mindset, what are your beliefs about who it is that you believe you are, what you're capable of creating, what you think is possible for you to create, whether you're tapped into creative life force at all, or whether you're solely relying on strategies and systems. And I show you different ways of how you can tap into that feminine life force within you, that power, the power of creation, the power of commanding literally the universe too. Just like you said in your story, I don't know how it happened, but it just appeared. Well, it's not really a miracle. It's literally neuroscience in real life, right? You form your thoughts. You focus on them long enough. They say 64 seconds, continuously on one thought, and boom, it manifests, right? That's kind of like when a woman recognizes that you have such a power and it doesn't require you to do hundreds of things, you get to scale so much faster, so much easier, and it all feels effortless. I mean, it doesn't feel easy. I don't want to sound like, oh, you just, you're bathing in Bahamas. But the most common thing that my clients say is that, oh my gosh, like I am making more right now doing a tenth of what I used to do in the past. And that's purely because we maximize the skills, the energetic power, their gifts, their genius, their zone of genius, and we focus solely on that. And I think it kind of comes to the next kind of thing of me helping my clients with their zone of genius. This was my journey for a very long time. I used to do a lot of things, helping clients with all sorts of things. But the minute I focused on the intuitive business building, energetics, and aligning your energy with your self-concept and your remembrance of that you are the creator, that's when everything just blew up. So the minute you focus on your zone of genius, and I'm very good at reading that, channeling that for you, and spotting exactly where you should be focusing your energy and where you actually immediately should stop, that's actually draining your energy. That's when the scaling becomes so much easier.
So people would typically come to you and you'd work together, I guess, over a longer period. So you because I'm like listening to you talk, I'm like, I could imagine people might be like, okay, a zone of genius call, please. Like,
It depends. It depends. So I have kind of, let's call them different offers. I offer, let's say, even single sessions. I call them next level timeline business session, where I can look at your business and within, let's say, an hour, tell you which offers are aligned, which offers aren't aligned. Where is it that your energy and power is leaking currently? And let's say what mindset shifts you can implement straight away to have a drastic impact on your results. We get to focus on the type of messaging that you are not communicating. So we up level, that level of true audacity and authority that you get to communicate. But I also have longer containers. So it really depends, whatever stage you come to meet me in my business, I will kind of almost intuitively know, because I don't always go like, well, let's go for a year. Some people may not need that. Some people just may need that quick burst of like boom, 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 boom. And some people, depending on what their goals are, may need 6 months, may need 12 months.
So if someone does come in then, because this is a question I always love to ask when people come on, let's say someone really comes in for a session. What does a session look like? Like, what are they doing with you? Is it they're sending you a business plan? Are they just coming in, sitting on, the couch and going, why isn't this working? How does that look typically?
So that typically looks is that I like to sort of have some 3D business info about you, or like obviously I'm able to tap into intuitively with obviously person's permission into like the energetic blueprint of your business and what it is that you want to create, where you would like to go.
So cool.
So I can actually see your next level timeline. And being able to then match that with your goal, we will look at your offers. So I will ask you, what offers do you currently have available that you would like to focus on more selling? And I will tune into, for example, the messaging behind it. So all of this will obviously be provided by you, but I will tune into the messaging and I will sense, I literally feel like I look at words, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't tangible enough. Let's make it more tangible. Let's say it this way. And when clients implement that messaging straight into their business, they notice like, well, that's exactly what I wanted to say. We will look at pricing. I have so many clients who come to me with like, oh, I don't know if I can charge this much. Or sometimes the price is too high for the level of value that they're communicating. So we will align that. I very often download their new offers. I'm like, this is what's coming to me. Like, are you offering this right now? And like, oh my gosh, like I've been thinking about this for years but I've just been scared to promote this. I'm like, this needs to be birthed like ASAP, or this needs some tweaking for a little bit of time. That's usually kind of what happens. I use precision. I use premium messaging and really just zoning in onto your business based on that next level. If you say, let's say, okay, Joanna, next month, I really want to make 30K months. How do I make that happen? Okay, let's move backwards. Let's go to what your next level offer is. And like, just to give you an example, I had a client 2 weeks ago who said, well, I want to make 30K months. I said, okay, what is the offer that you want to promote? And it turned out to be, I don't know, like a $97 masterclass she wanted to offer. I said, well, how many followers do you have? How many people do you have on your email list? And it turned out that she really didn't have enough. It's not that it was impossible for her to reach that goal, but I said, can you see like how much harder it was going to be to take this $97 masterclass and turn it into 30K? And we looked at her other offers. I'm like, this is what's really like feeling juicy. Have you thought of, sharing it this way? And she looked, I was like, wow, okay, no, not really. And when we did that, 30K happened, but it wasn't through the original idea that she had. We had to align. I really had to show her, like, this is going to be so much harder. This is way easier. So we got the messaging aligned, we got the offer aligned, we got the whole sort of, let's call it launch plan aligned, and it happened so much easier.
So it sounds like people can really come, and it is on the one hand, a troubleshooting, but also looking into the future, and that you're able to help them tap into that real desire and their own gifts in a way that they haven't been able to see themselves, and maybe didn't have the confidence or like enough support to like really believe they could bring that to life, but that they're actually able to see what's possible, to try it out. And they know they also have your support in the background. Like, yes, you can do this.
Totally.
It is possible.
Totally. Because, I'm a huge believer, and this is what came from experience, that the reason why we have any desire, whether that's 30K months, whether that is going to Hawaii, any desire whatsoever, is because that desire already exists fulfilled, just a different dimension. It's just a different universe. There's a version of you who's already experiencing that right now. Like, it's already done. And we don't even have to question it. What the job is now is like, how can we bridge that gap between now and that next version of you who's already enjoying that? How can we bring, your mindset so that how you think aligns with the version of you who's already, like, she knows it's possible. Well, it's already done, right? How can we align the type of actions that you take, the type of words that you use to actually verbalize the power of that offer? And when you move, that's why I love my timeline sessions so much, is because I really show you, it's not even the possibility. It's like, this is already done. So you move from the energy of like, well, if this is already done, I will no longer move from like, well, what if it doesn't work? Like, it will only not work if you give up right here. But it's already done. So how about we move from the energy of excitement? Let's see what happens. Let's see how many people say yes. And let's just have fun. That's what I love. The power of manifestation to me is not like sitting and meditating and visualizing. I come into my business and into working with my clients as, how about we have some fun? Because as children, we were having time all the time. We're using our visualization skills all of the time. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And as we grew up, we've actually forgotten the power of imagination. We've forgotten the power of our words. There's a reason for, oh my gosh, what's that quote? Obviously, the words basically become the words. Oh, it's going to come back to me, but there's a really famous
You'll
quote.
Get it. We'll edit it in later.
But also, the power of feelings. Like, the feeling is the secret, as per what's his name, Neville Goddard. The feeling is the feeling is the secret. So when you aligned your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings with your actions, that's why the result it is inevitable, because you're moving in alignment with your goal.
I know that there's definitely, more than a handful of healers who are listening, who might be struggling to figure out how, not just healers, right? It's also actually a lot of creators as well, like creatives, are struggling to figure out how they can take this particular piece of work that they believe in, that they're growing, and actually make it work so that they can pay their bills with it. Like, a lot of people, and I know this has happened also in my coaching practice, because I started my business in leadership development. So I had a lot of clients who actually left either corporate jobs or businesses they were running and are now more in healing businesses or creative businesses. And these are the questions that are like, so how would you, I mean, maybe even it's words of advice, because it's obviously they're not sitting in front of you for you to help channel specifically what they need, but how might they start to get out of that mindset of almost defeat or frustration or scarcity into a place where they really believe that they can make it happen for themselves?
Oh, I love this question. And honestly, like I could go on about this for hours. So please stop me. But I think
Here we are.
the best advice that I could give you without, you even needing to come into the session with me is remembering that you are the creator of your own life. Now, let me unpack this because this is, such a cliche statement. We create, there we go. I knew it would come back. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. For many, many years, I didn't realize I was being a victim to the external world. Is it possible? Can I make it happen? Oh my gosh, how can I make this happen? Can I make money based on this? Etc., etc., etc. And, insert everything that your clients share and my clients share. Is it possible? But what if, something happens? What if people start hating on me? Etc., etc., etc. When I say that I'm the creator of my own life, I am literally the creator of my own life. The reflection that I see in the 3D is purely a reflection of all of my beliefs that I have about myself as well as my reality. So if there is a part of me that up until now does not believe that I can make money from it, number one, I could go and say, from let's say the motivational aspect of coaching says, well, you've been giving this talent, you've been giving this passion for a reason, right? But that's kind of, people we hear like, okay, but how? Right? How do I make that happen? So coming back to being a creator, and I'm going to bring a little bit of theta healing into this. And this is, what I've been extensively studying for the last 2 years is the power of creation, power of manifestation, neuroplasticity, nervous system regulation, where I actually truly understood, and I'm still learning about this, but I understood it to the level where I actually had an evidence in my world happening so fast that I saw the power of what it truly means to be a creator. And I really had to catch myself in those moments where, can I make money off of it? Of course I can. If Tiffany can sell a safety pin or a, what do you call these little things that you attach onto a page? Oh my gosh, bookmark for $799, you can make money off your gift. Okay, if Tiffany had the balls to sell this, that means you can make that too. Why? Because we're all creators, right? So this is where the power of really conscious decision about what are the thoughts that I'm thinking on a day-to-day basis. And I know I'm going to kind of like add a little bit of fire, a little bit of petrol to the fire, because I'm going to say, I know there is a lot of negative feedback around affirmations. I used to be that person too, who used to, believe everyone's like, well, affirmations don't work. And I completely disagree with that. Affirmations and the power of manifestations have been the biggest game changer in my life. Learning the law of assumption, assuming things done before they appear was how I started believing in intangible things before they even appeared, when they became just an idea. So, if you're a healer, if you're someone who's just starting out and you're passionate about your business, that years ago, a month ago, was probably just an idea, right? But you were focusing your attention, and this is where the power of quantum physics comes in. When you focus your attention, your energy onto something, it materializes. So if you focus in your attention on saying to yourself, this is working out, people love to pay me, I get paid every single day, clients love to give me their money, you create amazing results in our lives. I love myself, because I'm also a big, big, big believer on, rather than kind of using affirmations to affect the external, I focus always on myself first. I focus on my self-concept and what I believe I am able to create as a creator. So I throughout ththese 2 years, I really focused on like, I live abundantly. People love to pay me. I love getting paid. I love receiving money. My value is immeasurable. The gift that I share with the world has no price tag to it. People they are looking for this. So I hope this gives a bit of a sort of introduction to go like, okay, well, if this is what you truly want to make a living out of, then you also need to believe that it's absolutely totally possible and it's totally doable. And you really, I'm going to use the word, you have to kind of talk yourself into, brainwash yourself until it truly becomes your reality. And that is something that, I teach in my other programs, the power of the law of assumption, because it's not so much the law of attraction. It's completely different aspect of that, where you really train yourself to be like a walking, talking, thinking, feeling machine, where you also learn to disregard what you're seeing in the 3D world. Because what you often see, like, okay, I'm affirming I'm a millionaire, but your bank account is like £400 in overdraft, right? And your emotions going like, oh, okay, what is happening? And, that's another conversation, because that's a part of the journey. But when you are consistent enough and you're committed enough and you're dedicated enough to make it work, it will honestly work. I have so many case studies of things just manifesting out of the blue only because my clients chose to believe that it's absolutely possible and it's already done.
Can you give us one of the case studies now?
Yes. I mean, I hope that HMRC is not going to watch this episode, but this was probably the best manifestation. So one of my clients had, I don't want to lie, but she probably had about £8,000 worth of it wasn't specifically taxable of her income. She used to have sort of like a business, proper brick and mortar business. And somehow through some different miscalculations, she got billed £8,000 worth of a tax bill that she didn't have money to pay. So we started, it was actually last year, it was during my first round of the Money Experience program. And she came to the program. I said, okay, focus on these affirmations. Imagine, your end scene, there's no bill. It's disappeared. Like, it's already taken care of. You don't really have to worry about it. It's already done. And I remember it was the first week of the program. She messaged us in the group. I said, I've logged into my HMRC account. Zero. It was showing zero. Which basically proved to all of us, including myself, every time like a manifestation like that happens, I'm like, okay, this is real. And we were all just blown away. I've manifested, free flight tickets, presents, clients, so many things, honestly. My partner is probably the best manifestation of them all.
I love that. And I know that that's real, but it sounded like you just added him in with like the tickets and the flights and like, oh yeah, and my partner, I put him on the list, on top of that. And just to check, because I think this is also super powerful. And you mentioned that there was a bit of the theta healing in this. So people can work with affirmations, but if they're doing it in a bit of an altered state, like a bit in that theta brainwave state, it will be even more powerful.
Yes.
Is that what I heard you say before?
It works. The reason why it works more powerful is because the minute we close our eyes and, it's you, like I do it as soon as I wake up and just before I go to bed. That's kind of where my favorite time is. But even during the day, like if you don't have that flexibility and the time to do this, if you just lie down, close your eyes, set the timer for 10 minutes, and in your own mind's eye, you start repeating certain sentences, over and over and over again, that's already powerful enough, because I think nobody really explained what affirmations really, really are. They just said, well, these are just statements. And, when you repeat them and like your body doesn't feel like it's true, it will immediately reject it. Part of it is true, but this is where the consistency and perseverance has to happen, because eventually, if we understand the principles of neuroplasticity, let me just break it down really simply. We've believed, how can people say affirmations don't work? If we've believed so many negative statements about ourselves for them to become true and manifest into our lives, right? Like, I'm not good enough. Okay, we'll attract the client who's going to question your not good enoughness, because you will always get a reflection of what you believe in, like a mirror of what you believe in. So if you're telling me that by repeating negative statements, have manifested this, I cannot manifest this by repeating a positive statement. Of course I can. But that's why, that being done in theta state works so much faster, because there is less resistance from the conscious mind and you are much more relaxed. There's another thing. And again, this is another conversation for another day. But when you are actually spending time using affirmations and repeating positive statements in your own mind, what you're actually doing through the quantum physics perspective is you're using statements, you're using a frequency, because words are frequency and vibrations. You are using frequency and vibrations from a level of consciousness where that is already your norm. So what you're doing in that moment, you are literally becoming, like, your cells are hearing this. So even though you have skin and bones right now, and maybe your reality is like 400 pounds in overdraft, doesn't matter, because there's always a bit of a delay in the, in the 3D reality before things manifest. You're starting to literally, as you go, become that version of you, tap into the level of consciousness where there is no resistance, where I am a millionaire. I get paid every single day. People love to pay me. People love what I do. I love myself. My partner absolutely loves and adores me. But you have to do it for long enough so that you remain in that frequency, and it basically becomes your new identity.
So powerful. It makes me want to get off of this episode and go and write things down. I'm like, all right, I'm ready, charged up. So I can imagine people who are listening are having exactly that same feeling. So you're definitely charging the air around us right now. We're coming close to the end, but I really wanted to ask you just to bring all of this home, because the work that you're doing, I mean, I can understand the healing power of it just by listening to you speak. But there's also something I'd love just to hear more explicitly from you. How is this kind of work healing for people? Because, I mean, I have my own experience of what it's like when my business isn't working or things aren't going how I hope. And I know there's so much potential, but I'd love to hear from your perspective, what is that healing potential for someone who gets to experience this kind of work?
I think the potential is in the fact that, obviously healing, that this word can be interpreted by every single person differently, right? The way that I saw healing back in 2013 was me focusing on what was wrong with me, what was blocking me, what were the blocks to me attracting a man of my dreams, me getting more money. It was like, what's in the way? Versus, again, this comes back to quantum physics, and I will often cite this because, for someone who's still a healer, or, let's say, we're all spiritual, right? But if your work is solely in a spiritual realm, it's sometimes nice to just bring it back to the 3D, the quantum physics of actually understanding how our brain works. Like, this is electricity transmitter. So to me, healing and utilizing the knowledge of that is remembering that what I focus on expands. So if I focus on what's wrong with me, why is my business not working? Why are clients not paying me and they're paying somebody else? Why am I experiencing this? Why is this? Why? Number one, you're in a victim energy because you're giving the power away to what is happening outside. Versus, okay, if I am focusing constantly on this, and I remember that what you focus on expands, and if I focus on healing my blocks, guess what I'm going to attract and create more of? More blocks to heal, more things to find what's wrong with me and transform them into power, right? I really just want to say, I don't see anything wrong with healing. Absolutely not. Because it's I've gone through this. The reason why I am where I am today is because I was devoted to healing. But, and here's a big, big, big but. And I think this bit, that's probably where my mission is as well, to challenge the healing industry to say, there comes a time and space where you've done enough. You've done more than enough healing. You've learned more than enough modalities. And by constantly focusing on what's wrong with you, what else you need to heal, what else you need to overcome, what else you need to add to your toolkit to feel like a good enough healer or good enough person to charge X or good enough to say this, and this is what I did, you have to get to the point where you say, I've had enough, I'm done. That's not to say that you're not here to grow and expand and learn new things. Absolutely not. Like, I love learning new stuff. But there came a time and space where I had to decide, you know what? I am not available for the belief that I still have to do something in order to receive something. That's not our frequency. That's not our divine frequency. If we look at babies, the minute they are born, they're pure consciousness. They receive I'm getting goosebumps now, which is amazing confirmation. They receive solely because they exist. I really want to let that land for many people. And this has always been our frequency. Always, and still will be until the day we die. We receive just because we exist. So when it comes to healing, the minute you realize that there is no more actual healing that you need to do, only coming back to the remembrance of how powerful you are, something within you will shift. That was the moment for me when I truly recognized my power. I decided to essentially choose the focus. I moved away from what's another block? Why isn't it not happening? To go, of course they pay me. Of course they love what I do. Of course everything happens to me. Everything that happens to me is a blessing, even if my logical mind will look at the outside world and say it is an absolute shit. I was just like, this is happening for my highest good. And honestly, when I say trust me, when I say even in the most negative circumstances, when I held to the belief, this situation is happening only because I'm about to get exactly what I want, that thing happened. So that to me is the healing, is choosing to decide where your focus goes. And the minute you choose to focus, like, I'm already good enough. I receive for being me. I am valuable enough as a human being, as a spirit, as a soul embodied in this human body. I should and do receive just because I exist. You will drop the need for healing. And you will embody a level and an identity of a person who actually is the creator of her life.
What a powerful message that you have given us. And yeah, I'm really letting that land, this understanding that we get to choose, and that's the healing in itself, that we also get to decide how we want our experience to feel. And when you recognize that that's possible, like, wow, well, holy shit, I can do it.
We've always had choice, always had choice, always will have choice. And I think that's just what people need to remember, right? Like, you're always choosing. We're always, every single second of day, 24/7, we're always choosing what we're focusing on. You can either focus on the lack or abundance. Like, I really just want to say this and thank you for this opportunity, because this interview in itself is so abundant. It's an opportunity for me to share my message, what I truly believe in, what I've gone through. Let's say the level of truth that is being channeled through me with the people who will resonate with this, and tie it back together to what you asked about, making it an abundant business, believing that you can get paid, and me coming back to me saying feeling is the secret. Woo, getting goosebumps again. I love this. Because this is the level of creation. If I can feel abundant before I have the evidence, which I am feeling right now, like, this is such an amazing opportunity for having the visibility through your amazing podcast. Guess what's going to happen? The ripple effect of this is going to come in ways that my logical mind cannot even comprehend right now. All I have to do is feel abundant now, which I am.
I appreciate that too. Let the abundance come in.
To all of us.
Yeah. I really wish we had more time. I know we are at the limit.
It's going to be part 2. Watch out.
Yeah, exactly. So just for people who are listening, who are obviously now inspired, because I can already feel that, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
I am pretty much all over social media. You can find me everywhere. No, the best place to find me is obviously Instagram. I do have a LinkedIn account. So if you just Google me, Joanna Choncer, I'm going to share some links with you, Amanda. So the platform that I'm kind of most visible is Instagram and Facebook as well. I do have an account on TikTok. I do have an account on LinkedIn, and I have my YouTube channel too. So you can find me there, and I have my own website too.
We're going to link to all of that in the show notes. So for people who are listening who want to learn more, Joanna is not only doing the one-on-one work, but she's also often hosting different challenges and mini programs. Like I'm watching your Instagram all the time, like, oh my God, this looks amazing. So you'll have plenty of opportunities to both learn and work with her. And I just want to say a huge thank you for sharing your story so generously, like all these different twists and turns that you've been on and this incredible wisdom that you've tapped into. I have goosebumps head to toe. I know this message is really going to resonate with so many people. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me to have this chat. I've had goosebumps from head to toe throughout the whole podcast. So I truly believe and trust that it was meant to be, and this will have an amazing ripple effect on the rest of the people and the world that this podcast touches the hearts of. So yeah, thank you so much.
And to everyone who is listening here with us, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen. And don't forget to hit subscribe and follow along so you never miss a new episode.